we have a few things we need to dig into. And the first story I want to talk about tonight is one that I just saw that, quite frankly, enraged me. So, CNN, now just put this in perspective. Just, I think 2 days ago, CNN tweeted out that they, with, I guess you would say, the overall vibe of their tweet was that they were outraged that a new report came out of Texas saying after Texas instituted their heartbeat abortion prevention law that 10,000 babies had been born in Texas because mothers could not access abortions once their child's heartbeat could be detected. It was like this outrage tweet, okay? 2 days later, CNN starts tweeting out today a story about a Kentucky couple furious that Kentucky state abortion law said that they couldn't abort their daughter, who had been diagnosed and confirmed by two physicians to have anencephaly in the womb, a life threatening fatal illness. Now, it's interesting, just 2 days before, these babies don't matter. Now, suddenly, CNN has compassion for babies in the womb. So, we all know where CNN's going. I want to go through and show you the video of the parents on CNN to hear their side. And I'm going to stop and give you some reaction because the story isn't all what it's being cracked up to be. In fact, um, it's pretty enraging. Let's watch it.
I was excited.
Heather and Nicholas Mayberry were thrilled in December to find out they were adding to their brood in Stanton, Kentucky.
And we found out we were pregnant with Willow 2 days before Christmas. So she was like our early Christmas present.
But then, in April, when Heather was 20 weeks pregnant, she posted on Facebook, "Please keep Nick, me, and our girls in your prayers. We just received the worst news about our baby girl."
And this is when we actually found out that Willow had anencephaly. It was just like a kick in the stomach.
Now, I want to stop right there and explain to you a little bit about anencephaly. Anencephaly, and because people, feel like they can't trust a pro-life source, I got this from the Minnesota Department of Health. Anencephaly is when a child does not develop a forebrain or cerebrum, the major thinking structure of the brain, and the remaining brain tissue is often not covered by bone or skin. So their brain can actually be outside of their skull. The baby will be born blind, deaf, unconscious, and unable to feel pain. That's an important point here, because children who are diagnosed with anencephaly in the womb aren't actually in pain. And it's believed by medical experts that when they are born, they're actually not in pain either. Okay, so let's keep playing.
Anencephaly, confirmed by 2 doctors, a condition where the baby is missing a major part of the brain.
How did it feel to hear those words?
It was the worst feeling in the world. I don't even, there's no words to explain how we felt.
I was devastated.
Yeah, we just broke down.
Were the doctors clear with you about what her chances were of surviving?
They told us there was no chance. They said that either she would be stillborn or she would die within a few hours.
The Mayberrys wanted to end the pregnancy.
Okay, let's stop there. The doctors told her, as common with children who are born anencephaly, that the children are going to be born stillborn, dead, or will die within a few hours. But then the parents say they wanted to choose to terminate, so pay somebody to end the life of their child. Why? Because they wanted they wanted her, Willow, to die on their terms. Let's keep going.
They want their daughter, Willow Rose, to suffer. And Heather's
But
blood
she can't
pressure
feel
was
pain.
already high and could get dangerously higher as the pregnancy went on. But Kentucky law bans nearly all abortions, and there's no exception if a fetus has a severe birth defect, even one like anencephaly. 3 sponsors of Kentucky.
Now, let's talk about this for a second. They mentioned the mother's blood pressure. There are obviously, in every pro-life bill that is presented and has been enacted in a law that prevents all abortions in a state or a majority of abortion state, there is always an exception for emergency protocol procedures when the woman's life, the mother's life, is at risk. Having high blood pressure can accompany carrying a child anencephaly, but her life was not in danger. And so what doctors were saying is, your life is not in danger. The child's life is not in danger right now. The child's not even feeling pain right now because of the state pro-life laws. You can't go out and just pay somebody to end the life of your child because you want to choose when to end the life of your child.
abortion laws did not respond to emails from CNN. Heather and Nicholas traveled out of state. They wanted to induce birth to at least get the chance to hold their daughter, but that cost tens.
Now let's think about that. What happens when you induce birth early in pregnancy, well before a child is fully developed? One of the basic things that we know from children who are born premature, 21, 22, 23, 24 weeks, some of whom survive, is that their lungs are not fully developed to be able to breathe in oxygen. So these children actually slowly suffocate. So what the parents wanted to do was to have an abortion procedure where they birth the child and allow the child to suffocate. That's what they wanted to have happen.
Thousands of dollars that they didn't have. Their only option, surgery that did not leave their child intact, so they couldn't hold her.
So what they just described there is their state insurance, thankfully, didn't pay for them to induce labor and to allow their child to slowly suffocate. And so they had to go out of state for their abortion, and so they could only afford to pay for a D&E, a dilation extraction abortion, which dismembers the child limb from limb, leg, arm, then eventually separating the torso from the head, delivering the head last.
We're grieving pictures. We're grieving footprints. We're grieving on a teddy bear. We'll never know what her face looked like. We'll never know what it was like to hold her in our.
Right. You'll never know what her face looked like. Because you hired a hitman, aka an abortionist, to dismember your child. You did that. Dismembered your child.
Arms. I mean, we're missing out on that. We're grieving someone that we've never seen.
Elizabeth Cohen, CNN.
Obviously, receiving a diagnosis that your child in the womb is not going to survive after birth is devastating. And I have an immense amount of compassion, empathy for this couple. However, who told them that paying someone to dismember their daughter was the more compassionate decision rather than carrying her as long as possible, as safely as possible for the mother until she would have to deliver the child? And when prenatal hospice could have been used to ensure that the child never felt pain, to allow the child to pass naturally and peacefully in the arms of her mother or father. The other part of the story that really is interesting to me and maddening is that the couple here has two other daughters. And the two other daughters, they're older. They obviously know what's going on. And what was the lesson that the two other daughters got from it? Our sister has been diagnosed with a fatal illness. Mom and dad are choosing to end the life of our sister with a fatal diagnosis because she's not perfect. I can't imagine the psychological effects of that on these young girls, knowing that their parents paid someone to end the life of their child, of their sibling. You know, what would happen if they would, God forbid, be diagnosed with a fatal illness? Would mom and dad do that? I think this is the story emphasizes all too well how twisted our culture has become, and how twisted we like to think of ourselves as this very progressive, compassionate culture, when really we practice some very barbaric things, some selfish things. When we know a child is going to die, instead of allowing the child to die when the child's going to die, we decide, we say, we want to have the say of when our child dies. We want to have that control. And then to go on national TV and to use this tragedy of your daughter to then make a case against pro-life laws that save little babies from being dismembered, from being burned alive, from having heart attacks induced upon them, from being starved, from being sucked out of existence through a cannula with a vacuum that's 11 to 12 times more powerful than your household vacuum cleaner. That takes something special. And shame on CNN. Shame on CNN that just 2 days before, they were kind of lamenting in their reporting and their tweeting that 10,000 extra babies have been born in Texas because Texas had the audacity to say that when a child's heartbeat can be heard, the child should not be destroyed for matters of convenience. But then 2 days later, CNN acts like they're compassionate towards children in the womb. There's a lot more I could say. I'm pretty upset about the article myself. If you know anybody who's struggling with an adverse prenatal diagnosis, I encourage you to go to prenatal. They're a wonderful organization. I've worked with them personally. As you all know, I have 2 children with cystic fibrosis. They're a wonderful organization, and you can also Google perinatal hospice or prenatal hospice. All right, so this is the Hill article I mentioned. CNN had an article about this. Texas abortion ban led to almost 10,000 additional live births. Where's the confetti, emoji? Where is the celebration emojis here? It's the mainstream media is reporting about this as if it's bad news. I mean, to some people it is. People who falsely believe the Earth is overpopulated, or just simply don't want there to be more human beings. There was a Newsweek op-ed a couple months ago that there was a diaper shortage across America. You know how there's a baby formula shortage because Joe Biden's FDA is inept, and they didn't care that babies across America couldn't get formula, right? Remember, and they didn't really talk about that. Well, there was a diaper shortage as well, and a Newsweek op-ed actually blamed pro-lifers on the diaper shortage because we were encouraging more people to have babies, and we were passing these abortion prevention acts that meant more babies were going to be born, and therefore there were going to be more diapers. Now, an obvious solution to a diaper shortage or diaper crisis would be to, I don't know, make more freaking diapers. That seems kind of easy, especially in a capitalist society, when people will probably make profit from making more diapers, but not to ideologues, abortion ideologues. All right, what is this article here? Okay, U.S. Catholic bishops have done something right. They've issued a sharp rebuke to 31 members of, I think they're just of the U.S. Congress, who actually very recently came out and said that they were Catholic Democrats and they used their Catholic faith as a defense for their pro-abortion views. In the letter, the president of the USCCB, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, says, quote, members of Congress recently invoked teachings of the Catholic faith itself as justifying abortion or supporting a supposed right to abortion grievously distort their faith. This was they called it a corrective statement. Another quote from the bishop says, it is wrong and incoherent to claim that the taking of innocent human life at the most vulnerable stage can ever be consistent with the values of supporting the dignity and well-being of those in need. Abortion violates this with respect to preborn children and brings untold suffering to countless women. Freaking men. You'll remember that this was a statement from Representative Rosa DeLauro. She's from Connecticut. She's always she's super, I guess she's older, but she always has super interesting hair, different colors. It does not go well. But she, in the statement, wrote that she was proud that they're part of the faithful pro-choice Catholic majority, as if that was something that she thought to be proud of. And then she cited the role of informed conscience and quoted a different section of the Catechism in her defense of legal abortion. Of course, why would I be surprised that an abortion apologist tries to distort the Catholic faith and take the Catechism out of context to justify their extremist beliefs? I'm not. I've been in Washington, D.C. far too long. All right, so the Federalist had a really interesting article. It's a snippet of Dr. Haywood Robinson's new book. He is a former abortionist. He now works for 40 Days to Life. I just interviewed him on Explicitly Pro-Life podcast. Make sure you subscribe to my podcast. If abortion were compassionate, wouldn't it leave moms asking, was it a boy or girl? You can Google this article in the Federalist. This excerpt from his book called The Scalpel and the Soul, a Radical Transformation as Husbands, Wife, Abortion Doctors. it's interesting because he recounts a story of one of the abortions he did. The patient asked the nurse afterwards, "Did I have a boy or a girl?" And he talks about how that really, messed up the nurse, because it humanized the child. And he said that he had been asked more than once in his career that exact question, and it's definitely maddening because I think that question is reflective that um, oftentimes, you know, women who seek abortions aren't simply seeking abortions because they believe what is inside them is a meaningless blob of tissue. We know, and I think it's written on the human heart, that what is inside of a woman when she is pregnant is, in fact, a new living human being, a baby. And I think that's reflective. Um, it's reflective of a broader problem that, why are women then still seeking to choose to have an abortion, to pay someone to end the life, to murder their child? And I think it's a really sad reflection of our culture that either because they're forced by a partner or a parent, or they feel innate pressure, or they have something going on at home with their finances, that they feel that they can't choose both themselves and their child. I think it shows us that's why our work in the pro-life movement is so important, and we always keep in mind our work is to make abortion unthinkable and illegal. All right. New York Times article. They had this um, very nice write up of a woman who recently died, an obituary, Peg Yorkin, who is credited with working with Ellie Schmiel and the Feminist Majority Network to bring the abortion pill to the U.S. market. She was the founder of the Feminist Majority. She was a second wave feminist. And I think it's really sad. I think when you think about your obituary, dying, realizing that you were part of this second wave of feminism that was seeking to ensure that women had equal opportunities in the workplace and in education, and then somehow your views got warped into believing that women really couldn't be equal unless they could kill the most vulnerable human beings in our world, and that you are credited um, with bringing to market a pill that was developed by a former pharmaceutical company allied with the Nazis, a eugenicist company that has been responsible for more than 5 million deaths in the United States, preborn deaths, not to mention dozens of mothers who've died after they've taken these abortion pills. That's quite a legacy you left, Peg Jorgen, and I think we should all be praying for your soul. All right, that's the pro life news for today, Friday, July 7th. Can't believe it. I'll be back next week. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe to my Sleep Pro Life podcast. I have an amazing new interview that just posted today with a pro life doctor, and we actually go through all of these very complicated circumstances that women, pregnant mothers, can find themselves in that could be life threatening, and how pro-life doctors treat her and her child with dignity and with care, proving that abortion is never medically necessary. So make sure you subscribe anywhere you get your podcast, Explicitly Pro-Life. Have a great weekend.